Welcome to Smart Remarks, where we shut down the nation's capital apparently just to have a tea party. So I'm reading a piece this morning titled "Republicans Attack Obamacare, Defense Shutdown," in which a Representative Vicky Hartzler of Missouri, Republican of course, says this, quote, "The American people have spoken already on this. They do not want Obamacare." Really? Hold up here. She's right, the American people have spoken on this. I think the exact date was November 6, 2012. You might remember we had a presidential election where Republican candidate Mitt Romney promised to repeal Obamacare if he was elected. Obamacare was a central, if not the central issue in the election, and here was the American public's opportunity to have its say on the law. If they didn't like it, they could vote out Obama and scrap the legislation that bore his name. But that's not what happened. Do you remember what happened? I remember what happened. Do you think Tea Party America remembers it? Let's remind them. The American people voted for Obama. Obama won the election pretty handily, in fact. This was as close as we're ever going to get to a national referendum on Obamacare. And the American public gave it the thumbs up. They voted for it. So who are these Americans that this Representative Hartzler is talking about? Now, sure, there are some Americans, many Americans, who don't like Obamacare. I'm sure some of her own constituents hate it. But it is factually incorrect to assert that the American public as a whole, in the aggregate, is against Obamacare, when in fact they voted for it. Obamacare is a product of the democratic process itself, which is to say that it was approved by Congress, signed by Obama, upheld by the Supreme Court, and then voters had their say. And at every stage of the game, it got the thumbs up. But conservatives from day one have regarded Obamacare as illegitimate. An illegitimate law passed illegitimately without a single Republican vote. It was shoved down the nation's throat, 1,200 pages of legislation that no one actually read, and I'm not here to defend Obamacare on its merits. I may well wind up hating the thing. But consider what conservatives are saying here. Because Congress was controlled by Democrats at the time it was passed, Obamacare is illegitimate. Because it passed without a single GOP vote, it's illegitimate. It's illegitimate because it isn't the outcome they wanted. Democracy, our republic, is the greatest thing in the world when it produces the results they want. When it produces results they don't like, they defame the democratic process itself. I hated the war in Iraq. I thought putting Judge Scalia on the Supreme Court was a terrible idea, but at no point did it occur to me to argue that those decisions were illegitimate. They were legitimate. Legitimately dumb, but still, okay? This becomes now the conservative stab-in-the-back myth. Good, patriotic, conservative Americans don't want this law, but they had it shoved down their throat. They were stabbed in the back. It's immoral, and thus illegitimate. No, it's not. Just because you don't like what the American public has to say doesn't mean they didn't speak. And here's my advice. Next time the American public speak, maybe conservatives ought to listen. That is, really listen. I guess there's a first time for everything.